Oscar movies were once scripts nobody had actually made. The Blacklist is not a list of banned films. It highlights highly admired unproduced screenplays. Some later became bold R-rated movies that conquered awards season. These stories looked risky, difficult, dark, or commercially uncertain. Then filmmakers took the chance, audiences responded, and the Academy followed. Before we begin, like this video, share it with another movie fan, and subscribe to the channel. Number 20. Hell or High Water, 2016. The robbers in Hell or High Water are not chasing luxury. They are trying to stop a bank from taking the last valuable thing their family owns, giving the crime story an angry economic edge. Chris Pine plays Toby Howard, a divorced father who begins robbing small branches of Texas Midlands Bank with his older brother Tanner, played by Ben Foster. Their plan has a strange logic. The same bank holds the debt threatening their family ranch, so Toby wants to steal enough money from its branches to pay the bank back with its own cash. Jeff Bridges plays Marcus Hamilton, a Texas Ranger nearing retirement, who studies the crimes and quickly understands they follow a pattern. He jokes constantly with his partner Alberto, but beneath the humor is a patient investigator who knows desperate men often become predictable. Some of the film's most memorable scenes are unexpectedly quiet. A restaurant waitress gives Marcus an extremely limited choice of what he can order. Later, the final porch conversation between Marcus and Toby becomes the movie's real showdown. There are no explosions, just two men looking at each other and knowing exactly what the other has done. The Academy gave the film 4 nominations: Best Picture, Supporting Actor for Bridges, Original Screenplay for Taylor Sheridan, and Film Editing. A modern R-rated Western about banks and desperation had become prestige cinema. Number 19. Manchester by the Sea, 2016. Some movies treat grief like a problem that can eventually be solved. Manchester by the Sea makes a harder argument. Sometimes a person simply learns how to carry it. Casey Affleck plays Lee Chandler, a quiet maintenance worker living alone near Boston. He speaks little, avoids emotional connections, and seems determined to keep his world as small as possible. Then his brother Joe dies. Lee returns to Manchester by the Sea and discovers that Joe's will names him guardian of Patrick, Lee's teenage nephew. That responsibility forces him back into the town he desperately tried to leave. Through flashbacks, the film reveals that Lee once had a wife, children, friends, and a very different personality. A catastrophic mistake destroyed that life and left him unable to forgive himself. The police station sequence following that revelation is one of the film's most devastating moments. Lee's reaction shows how completely one night changed everything. Later, he unexpectedly meets his former wife Randy, played by Michelle Williams. She tries to tell him she no longer blames him and that there is still love between them. Lee can barely remain in the conversation. Nothing is exaggerated, and that restraint makes the scene even more painful. The film also understands that tragedy does not stop ordinary life. Patrick still worries about hockey, girlfriends, his band, and school, while Lee struggles to imagine a future. Manchester by the Sea received 6 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director. Casey Affleck won Best Actor, while Kenneth Lonergan won Original Screenplay. And share this video with someone who thinks award-winning movies always had an easy path to the screen. Number 18. Whiplash, 2014. Most people would never expect a jazz conservatory rehearsal room to feel like an arena. Damien Chazelle turned one into a place where every missed beat seems dangerous. Miles Teller plays Andrew Neiman, an ambitious drummer studying at a prestigious music school in New York. He dreams of becoming one of the greatest jazz musicians in history. Then, instructor Terrence Fletcher notices him. Played by J.K. Simmons, Fletcher runs the school's elite studio band with complete authority. He believes comfort creates mediocrity, and fear can force talented students toward greatness. Andrew quickly learns what that philosophy means. A rehearsal can stop because one drummer is slightly off-tempo. Fletcher can speak quietly 1 second and explode the next. Andrew becomes so obsessed with earning approval that almost everything outside music disappears from his life. The final concert is where the movie becomes unforgettable. Fletcher deliberately places Andrew in an impossible situation by starting a piece he does not know. Humiliated, Andrew leaves the stage. Then he returns. Without permission, Andrew begins Caravan, forcing Fletcher and the band to follow him. What follows is an extended drum performance in which teacher and student fight for control without needing dialogue. At the end, Fletcher finally seems to recognize Andrew as the musician he demanded he become. Whether that is triumph or something darker is left open. Whiplash earned 5 Academy Award nominations and won 3, supporting actor for Simmons, film editing, and sound mixing. It was also nominated for Best Picture and Adapted Screenplay. Number 17, Michael Clayton, 2007. Corporate lawyers rarely look like action heroes, which is exactly why Michael Clayton works. George Clooney plays a professional fixer whose job is to quietly solve problems powerful clients never want the public to see. Clayton works for an elite New York law firm, cleaning up scandals and handling situations too delicate for ordinary attorneys. His routine begins to collapse when Arthur Edens, one of the firm's top lawyers, has a breakdown while defending a giant agricultural company. Arthur becomes convinced that the corporation has hidden dangerous information and decides to expose what he knows. At first, Michael assumes his colleague simply needs help. The deeper he looks, the more he realizes Arthur may be telling the truth. That turns a legal problem into something far more dangerous. The film's most famous scene begins almost quietly. Michael stops his car after noticing horses standing on a hillside. He walks toward them, and moments later the vehicle explodes behind him. The image is calm and terrifying at the same time because Michael finally understands someone expected him to be inside. The final confrontation with corporate attorney Karen Crowder, played by Tilda Swinton, gives the movie another memorable payoff. Michael allows her to believe she can control the situation before revealing how much he knows. Michael Clayton earned 7 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Best Actor for Clooney, and Original Screenplay. Swinton won Supporting Actress, proving a chilly legal thriller could become top-tier Oscar material. Number 16, 3:10 to Yuma, 2007. By the mid-2000s, many studios treated the classic Western as commercially old-fashioned. Then 3:10 to Yuma arrived and proved that 2 determined men, 1 prisoner, and an approaching train could still create enormous suspense. Christian Bale plays Dan Evans, a struggling rancher whose land is in trouble and whose oldest son no longer seems to respect him. When outlaw Ben Wade, played by Russell Crowe, is captured, Dan agrees to join the group escorting him to the train that will take him to Yuma prison. At first, Dan needs the money. Wade quickly understands, however, that something deeper is driving him. Dan wants to prove to himself and his son that he can finish something difficult even when everyone else tells him to walk away. The famous final section turns the town around the railway station into a trap. Rewards are offered to anyone willing to stop the escort, allies disappear, and Dan keeps moving toward the train anyway. The relationship between Wade and Dan becomes strangely respectful by the end. The outlaw sees exactly why this mission matters to the rancher. The film earned Academy Award nominations for Marco Beltrami's score and for sound mixing. 2 nominations may sound modest, but Oscar recognition for an R-rated Western was notable during an era when Hollywood had largely stepped away from the genre. Number 15, In Bruges, 2008. A beautiful medieval city becomes a kind of waiting room in Bruges, where 2 hitmen hide after a job goes terribly wrong. The location looks peaceful, but the characters are carrying problems that no amount of sightseeing can fix. Colin Farrell plays Ray, a young hitman crushed by guilt after making a terrible mistake. Brendan Gleeson plays Ken, his older partner, who is ordered to stay with him in Bruges while their boss decides what happens next. Their boss Harry, played by Ralph Fiennes, eventually gives Ken a direct order involving Ray. Ken begins questioning whether loyalty to Harry matters more than giving a broken young man another chance. One of the most memorable sequences unfolds around the bell tower, where Ken's decision forces him into direct conflict with Harry. Later, the final chase becomes surreal because a film production is taking place nearby, filling the streets with costumed performers that make Bruges resemble Ray's nightmare version of the afterlife. Martin McDonagh's screenplay can move from very funny to deeply sad within seconds. That tonal control became the movie's greatest strength. The Academy nominated McDonagh for Best Original Screenplay. It was the film's only Oscar nomination, but for such an unusual R-rated crime comedy, that recognition mattered. Number 14, The Wrestler, 2008. The cheering crowd once made Randy Robinson feel immortal. Years later, the applause is still there, but nearly everything else has faded. That contrast gives The Wrestler its emotional power. Mickey Rourke plays Randy the Ram Robinson, a professional wrestler who enjoyed major fame in the 1980s. Now he performs in small venues, signs autographs for nostalgic fans, lives modestly, and works part-time at a supermarket. His body can no longer absorb the punishment that once made him successful. After a serious health problem, doctors warn Randy that returning to the ring could be dangerous. He attempts to repair his relationship with his daughter Stephanie. He grows closer to Cassidy, played by Marissa Tomei. He even takes shifts behind a supermarket deli counter and initially enjoys talking with customers. Then ordinary life starts collapsing around him. One of the film's most memorable scenes shows Randy becoming overwhelmed at the deli. The supermarket feels more painful to him than the wrestling ring because there he is anonymous. Inside the ring, at least people still chant his name. The final match is heartbreaking because Randy understands exactly what he may be risking. His opponent notices he is struggling and encourages him to stop, but Randy keeps going toward the only identity he still understands. The Academy nominated Mickey Rourke for Best Actor and Marisa Tomei for Supporting Actress. For Rourke especially, the nomination felt almost inseparable from the character's own story of fame, decline, and one last chance to be seen. Number 13. Up in the Air, 2009. Ryan Bingham has built a life where almost nothing can hurt him because almost nothing belongs to him. Up in the Air takes that philosophy and slowly exposes the loneliness underneath it. George Clooney plays Ryan, a corporate specialist who travels around America firing employees for companies too uncomfortable to deliver the news themselves. He spends most of his life in airports, hotels, rental cars, and executive lounges, and he genuinely prefers it that way. His system is threatened by Natalie Keener, played by Anna Kendrick, who develops a way to fire people through video calls. If her idea succeeds, Ryan will no longer need to travel. At the same time, he meets Alex, played by Vera Farmiga, another frequent traveler who appears to share his commitment-free lifestyle. Slowly, Ryan begins wondering whether his carefully designed independence is really emptiness. The turning point comes when he abandons a speaking engagement and rushes to Alex's home, convinced he is finally ready for something real. What he finds at the door completely changes his understanding of their relationship. The movie earned 6 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director. Clooney was nominated for Best Actor. Farmiga and Kendrick both received Supporting Actress nominations, and the screenplay was also recognized. A quiet, R-rated drama about airports, job loss, and emotional distance became one of the year's biggest Oscar contenders. Number 12. Little Miss Sunshine, 2006. Nothing about a broken family driving across America in a yellow Volkswagen bus sounded like obvious Oscar material. Yet that ordinary setup became the secret weapon of Little Miss Sunshine, a movie that turned embarrassment, disappointment, and family chaos into something unexpectedly warm. The story follows young Olive Hoover, who learns she has qualified for a children's beauty pageant in California. Her entire family piles into an unreliable van because leaving anyone behind is almost impossible. Her father, Richard, is obsessed with winning. Her mother, Cheryl, is trying to hold everyone together. Her teenage brother, Dwayne, refuses to speak. Her grandfather behaves without a filter, and Uncle Frank is recovering from a personal crisis. The trip becomes a parade of mechanical problems, arguments, missed expectations, and painful truths. Yet the more badly things go, the more the family begins functioning like a real team. The movie's most famous sequence arrives at Olive's pageant performance. Surrounded by highly rehearsed contestants, Olive performs the routine her grandfather taught her. The audience is stunned, but instead of pulling her away in shame, the Hoovers join her on stage. The scene becomes a celebration of refusing to fit someone else's idea of normal. The film received 4 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. Alan Arkin won Supporting Actor, while Michael Arndt won Original Screenplay. A modest road comedy had become a major Oscar story. Number 11. Blood Diamond, 2006. A rare stone appears to drive the plot, but Blood Diamond is really about what people value when survival, money, and family collide. Set during the conflict in Sierra Leone, the film follows 3 people whose goals keep pulling them together. Solomon Vandy, played by Jimon Hounsou, is a fisherman separated from his family who discovers an unusually valuable pink diamond and secretly hides it. Smuggler Danny Archer, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, hears about the stone and believes it could buy his escape from Africa. Journalist Maddie Bowen wants proof connecting the diamond trade to wealthy international buyers. The emotional center is Solomon's search for his son Dia. When father and son finally face each other after everything that has happened, the stone suddenly feels almost irrelevant. That relationship gives the movie weight beyond its thriller structure. DiCaprio's performance earned a Best Actor nomination, while Hounsou received a Supporting Actor nomination. The movie earned 5 Academy Award nominations in total, including recognition for editing and sound. What looked like a harsh, politically charged R-rated thriller became one of the year's serious awards contenders. If you enjoy stories about risky scripts that unexpectedly reach the Oscars, hit subscribe now. Number 10. The Fighter, 2010. The title suggests a boxing movie, but Mickey Ward spends almost as much time fighting his own family as he does opponents inside the ring. Mark Wahlberg plays Mickey, a professional boxer from Lowell, Massachusetts, whose career is managed by his mother Alice and trained by his half-brother Dickie Eklund. Dickie, played by Christian Bale, was once the pride of Lowell after fighting Sugar Ray Leonard, but years later he is still living inside the memory of that moment. A documentary crew follows Dickie everywhere. He proudly believes they are recording his comeback. Eventually he learns the program is focused on his addiction instead. The realization is painful because it forces him to see how far his life has moved from the story he keeps telling himself. Meanwhile, Mickey begins dating Charlene, played by Amy Adams, who openly questions whether his family is helping or destroying his career. When Mickey receives another serious opportunity, he has to establish boundaries with the people who love him most. Eventually, the family finds a way to work together, but only after nearly tearing itself apart. The Fighter received 7 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Original Screenplay. Christian Bale won Supporting Actor, while Melissa Leo won Supporting Actress, giving the movie a rare double victory in the supporting acting categories. Number 9, Babel, 2006. One careless act in the Moroccan desert connects lives thousands of miles apart in Babel, a drama built around the idea that people can be physically close yet emotionally unable to understand one another. The film moves between several countries rather than following one traditional hero. In Morocco, 2 young brothers test a rifle and accidentally strike an American tourist named Susan, played by Cate Blanchett. Her husband Richard, played by Brad Pitt, desperately tries to find medical help while their tour group waits in fear. Back in the United States, the couple's children are staying with their nanny Amelia. When she cannot find anyone else to watch them, she takes them across the Mexican border for her son's wedding. What begins as a joyful trip slowly becomes another crisis. In Tokyo, teenager Chieko struggles with loneliness, communication, and the death of her mother. Her storyline initially feels separate until the movie reveals how it connects to the rifle at the center of the Moroccan story. Some of the most memorable scenes take place in Tokyo, where sound changes according to Chieko's perspective. A crowded nightclub can suddenly feel silent, putting the audience inside her isolation instead of merely showing it. The film received 7 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture and Best Director. Adriana Barraza and Rinko Kikuchi were both nominated for Supporting Actress, while Gustavo Santaolalla won Original Score. A fragmented, demanding R-rated drama had become a major Oscar player. Number 8, American Hustle, 2013. Almost everyone in American Hustle is pretending to be somebody else, and the movie makes it clear that performance is not limited to professional con artists. Christian Bale plays Irving Rosenfeld, a clever scammer running financial schemes with Sidney Prosser, played by Amy Adams. Sidney adopts an English accent and presents herself as Lady Edith Greensley, making their operation appear far more sophisticated than it really is. Then FBI agent Richie DeMasso, played by Bradley Cooper, catches them. Instead of immediately sending them to prison, Richie forces the pair to help him catch bigger targets. What begins as a limited operation quickly becomes dangerously ambitious. Richie wants politicians, powerful businessmen, and eventually figures connected to organized crime. Irving knows the plan is becoming unstable, but Richie becomes addicted to the idea of making his career through one enormous case. At home, Irving faces another unpredictable force, his wife Rosalind, played by Jennifer Lawrence. One of the film's funniest scenes involves Rosalind damaging a microwave after putting metal inside it. She keeps calling the appliance a science oven and somehow turns the disaster into proof that Irving is wrong. American Hustle received 10 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Original Screenplay, and nominations in all 4 acting categories. Remarkably, it won nothing. 10 nominations without a single victory turned it into one of the ceremony's most famous Oscar shutouts. Number 7, Inglourious Basterds, 2009. The opening of Inglourious Basterds contains almost no conventional action, yet it may be more suspenseful than entire thrillers. A car approaches an isolated farmhouse in occupied France, and Colonel Hans Landa politely asks dairy farmer Perrier Lapadite whether they can talk. Landa, played by Christoph Waltz, drinks milk, smiles, compliments the family, and calmly begins asking questions. The audience gradually realizes a Jewish family is hiding beneath the floorboards. That conversation establishes the film's central idea: words can be weapons. Elsewhere, Lieutenant Aldo Raine, played by Brad Pitt, leads a group of Jewish American soldiers operating behind enemy lines. Their mission is to create fear among German forces. The basement tavern sequence is another masterclass in tension. British officer Archie Hickox attempts to maintain his German disguise during what should be a simple meeting. One small hand gesture exposes that something is wrong. Within seconds, everyone understands the danger, but nobody wants to move first. The climax inside Shosanna's cinema abandons historical reality completely. Tarantino turns the movie theater itself into the instrument of revenge. Inglourious Basterds received 8 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Original Screenplay, Cinematography, and Editing. Christoph Waltz won Supporting Actor, turning Hans Landa into one of the era's most celebrated screen villains. Number 6. Django Unchained, 2012. Instead of making a quiet historical drama, Quentin Tarantino took the structure of a spaghetti western and aimed it at one of America's darkest periods. Jamie Foxx plays Django, an enslaved man freed by bounty hunter Dr. King Schultz, played by Christoph Waltz. Schultz needs Django because he can identify 3 wanted brothers. In exchange for Django's help, Schultz offers him freedom. The partnership soon becomes something more. Schultz teaches Django how bounty hunting works, treats him like a partner, and eventually agrees to help find Django's wife, Broomhilda. Their search leads to Candyland, a plantation owned by Calvin Candy, played by Leonardo DiCaprio. Because simply asking for Broomhilda would expose their intentions, Django and Schultz pretend they are interested in buying another fighter. The long dinner sequence becomes the film's dramatic center. Candy's suspicion slowly grows while Steven, played by Samuel L. Jackson, realizes Django and Broomhilda know one another. DiCaprio becomes increasingly intense as Candy understands that his guests believe they are smarter than he is. Django Unchained received 5 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture. Christoph Waltz won Supporting Actor, while Tarantino won Original Screenplay. For such a confrontational R-rated Western, becoming a Best Picture nominee was a remarkable result. Number 5. The Wolf of Wall Street, 2013. Very few Oscar nominees spend 3 hours showing people behaving this badly and still manage to make the audience laugh. Martin Scorsese's The Wolf of Wall Street follows Jordan Belfort as he discovers how easily confidence can be mistaken for financial intelligence. When a market crash costs Jordan his job, he discovers penny stocks and realizes the commissions are enormous. Soon he creates Stratton Oakmont with Donnie Azoff, played by Jonah Hill. Jordan trains inexperienced salesmen to sound like financial geniuses over the telephone. His speeches transform the office into something between a trading floor, sports arena, and chaotic party. The more money the company makes, the more recklessly everyone behaves. The FBI eventually begins investigating Jordan, especially Agent Patrick Denham, who refuses to be impressed by his wealth. One of the movie's most famous comic sequences involves Jordan attempting to reach his Lamborghini after taking substances he incorrectly believes have lost their effect. In his own memory, he drives home carefully. The next morning reveals a very different version of events. Scorsese repeatedly places the audience inside Jordan's unreliable perspective, showing how someone can convince himself that obvious disaster is success. The Wolf of Wall Street received 5 Academy Award nominations: Best Picture, Best Director for Scorsese, Best Actor for DiCaprio, Supporting Actor for Jonah Hill, and Adapted Screenplay. It won none, but its presence across the Academy's biggest categories showed how completely voters embraced this extreme R-rated production. Number 4. Spotlight, 2015. There are no superheroes, giant courtroom speeches, or glamorous investigators in Spotlight. Most of the action involves reporters reading records, searching databases, making phone calls, and asking uncomfortable questions. That ordinary work becomes gripping because the audience gradually understands the scale of what they are finding. The film follows the Boston Globe's Spotlight investigative team. Walter Robinson, played by Michael Keaton, leads reporters Mike Resendez, Sasha Pfeiffer, and Matt Carroll as they investigate allegations involving a Catholic priest. At first, the reporters believe they may be examining isolated cases. Then they begin finding more names. The investigation reveals patterns involving lawyers, settlements, sealed records, transferred priests, and institutions that repeatedly failed to confront what was happening. One powerful moment comes when Matt Carroll learns that a treatment center connected to accused priests is located close to his own home. Suddenly, the investigation is not an abstract newsroom project. Another memorable scene features Mark Ruffalo's Mike Resendez demanding that the team publish once critical documents become available. His anger breaks through the controlled tone that dominates the movie. Editor Marty Barron insists they need the full institutional story, not merely individual names. Spotlight received 6 Academy Award nominations, including Best Picture, Best Director, Supporting Actor for Ruffalo, supporting actress for Rachel McAdams, film editing, and original screenplay. It won original screenplay and then Best Picture, defeating much larger and more visually spectacular contenders. Number 3. Argo, 2012. The plan sounds so ridiculous that it could only come from Hollywood or the CIA. During the 1979 Iran hostage crisis, 6 American diplomats escaped the U.S. Embassy and secretly hide at the home of Canadian Ambassador Ken Taylor. The problem is getting them out of the country. Ben Affleck plays CIA specialist Tony Mendez, who studies several rescue ideas before proposing something almost unbelievable. The diplomats will pretend to be Canadian filmmakers scouting locations for a science fiction adventure called Argo. For the cover story to survive serious questions, the fake movie has to look completely real. Mendez travels to Hollywood and works with makeup artist John Chambers, played by John Goodman, and producer Lester Siegel, played by Alan Arkin. They obtain a screenplay, create production art, establish an office, hold a publicity event, and make sure anyone calling Hollywood will be told that Argo is a real production. The diplomats receive false identities and must memorize detailed biographies about their supposed film industry jobs. A location scouting trip through Tehran creates enormous tension because any question could expose them. The airport sequence then becomes the film's unforgettable finale. Argo received 7 Academy Award nominations and won 3: Film Editing, Adapted Screenplay, and Best Picture. Ben Affleck was surprisingly not nominated for Best Director, making the film's Best Picture victory even more unusual. A screenplay about a fake Hollywood movie had become the Academy's favorite real movie of the year. Number 2. Slumdog Millionaire, 2008. At first glance, Slumdog Millionaire appears to revolve around one question: how can an ordinary young man from Mumbai know the answers on a television quiz show? The real question is more emotional. How did he survive long enough to learn them? Dev Patel plays Jamal Malik, a young contestant who reaches the final stages of the Indian version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. His success immediately creates suspicion. The show's host cannot understand how someone with Jamal's background could answer questions that educated contestants miss. Authorities assume he must have cheated. To prove otherwise, Jamal explains exactly how he knew each answer. That structure allows the film to move backward through his life. We see Jamal as a child growing up with his older brother Salim. We see the brothers survive poverty, exploitation, dangerous adults, crowded trains, and constant uncertainty. Most importantly, we see Jamal meet Latika. Their relationship becomes the emotional thread connecting the separate time periods. Every quiz question reminds Jamal of something he experienced earlier: a celebrity autograph, an American tourist, a childhood memory, or an event involving Salim suddenly becomes information worth millions. Even the host begins trying to stop him, offering a false answer during a break because he assumes the young contestant has finally reached his limit. Jamal ignores him. The celebration is followed by the famous railway station dance to Jai Ho, turning the ending into a joyful release after everything the characters endured. Slumdog Millionaire earned 10 Academy Award nominations and won 8. Those victories included cinematography, film editing, sound mixing, original score, original song for Jai Ho, adapted screenplay, Best Director for Danny Boyle, and Best Picture. 8 wins from 10 nominations made it one of the ceremony's dominant films. Number 1. The Revenant, 2015. Long stretches of The Revenant feel less like traditional entertainment and more like watching someone refuse to stop surviving. Leonardo DiCaprio plays frontiersman Hugh Glass, traveling with a fur-trapping expedition through brutal American wilderness. After the group is attacked, Glass becomes separated from the others and encounters a bear. The resulting sequence became the film's defining moment. The camera appears to remain frighteningly close while Glass is thrown, dragged, and repeatedly attacked. There is little relief. The scene emphasizes breathing, snow, mud, movement, and physical struggle until survival feels almost impossible. Glass lives, but his injuries are severe. John Fitzgerald, played by Tom Hardy, argues that trying to transport him will endanger everyone. When Fitzgerald is left behind with Glass and 2 others, he makes a terrible decision and abandons the injured man. That should be the end of the story. Instead, Glass begins moving. At first, he can barely crawl. His journey across rivers, forests, cliffs, and freezing landscapes becomes the film's central experience. Revenge motivates him, but survival is always the more immediate problem. By the time Glass finally reaches Fitzgerald, revenge no longer feels simple. The Revenant led its year with 12 Academy Award nominations. It won 3 major Oscars: cinematography for Lubezki, directing for Iñárritu, and Best Actor for Leonardo DiCaprio. DiCaprio's victory became a major pop culture moment because he had been nominated multiple times without previously winning a competitive acting Oscar. This punishing R-rated project finally changed that. So which journey surprises you most? The risky Blacklist script that struggled to get made, or the finished R-rated movie that eventually reached the Oscars? From Whiplash and The Wolf of Wall Street to Argo, Spotlight, and Slumdog Millionaire, these films prove that difficult ideas can become movie history. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and tell us which film deserved even more Academy Awards.